My dad burst out at the family reunion and said, "I'm proud of all my children, except the loser. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved ones." It was supposed to be a happy day. The house was full of laughter, the smell of grilled food, and relatives I hadn't seen in years. Everyone was smiling, sharing stories from childhood, and acting like we were one big perfect family. I was quiet, as always. I never really fit in, but I showed up because deep down, I still wanted to feel like I belonged. Then came the moment that changed everything. My dad stood up for a toast. Everyone lifted their glasses, expecting the usual speech about family and love. But instead, he smiled and said, "I'm proud of all my children, except the loser." And just like that, the whole room froze. People looked around. Some awkwardly laughed. Others stared straight at me. He didn't have to say my name. Everyone knew who he meant. I felt a wave of heat rush through me. My throat tightened, but I forced a small smile. I even chuckled like it was a joke. But inside, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I didn't say anything. I didn't cause a scene. I just picked up my things and walked out. No one stopped me. No one even followed. I left that party feeling invisible and humiliated. But I didn't just walk away empty. I left with something powerful: anger, clarity, and a plan. On the drive home, I thought about my whole life. I've always taken a different path, working in tech, freelancing, building something slowly. Not like my siblings with their shiny jobs and fancy titles, but I worked hard. I stayed honest. And yet, I was the loser. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing his voice, over and over. And then I started to remember things. Secrets my family thought I didn't know. Things they never told my dad. And for once, I didn't feel powerless. I left the reunion feeling broken, but I woke up the next day ready to show them who I really was, ready to stop being quiet, because I may be the loser in their eyes. But that was about to change. Growing up, I was always the black sheep of the family. No matter what I did, I never quite fit in. My siblings were the kind of children parents bragged about at dinner parties. Successful, smart, and always doing something impressive. My older brother went into law, graduated top of his class, and joined a big firm downtown. My sister became a doctor, married another doctor, and posted pictures of her perfect life online. Even my younger brother, the so-called baby of the family, launched a startup that took off, and now he drives a Tesla and talks about networking and stocks like he's 30 years older than he is. And then there was me. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't aimless. I just chose a different path. I fell in love with tech, building things, solving problems, and using my creativity in ways that school never allowed. I didn't go the traditional route. I didn't wear a suit or carry a title that sounded important. I taught myself to code. I picked up freelance gigs, helped small businesses build websites, designed mobile apps, and slowly built something on my own terms. I worked long nights, took risks, and faced 100 rejections, but I kept going. No one in my family ever saw that part. To them, I was just the guy still figuring it out. They never understood freelancing. To my dad, it wasn't a real job unless you had a boss and a desk. He'd always ask me when I was going to get serious. Every time I visited home, the conversation turned to how well my siblings were doing. "Did you hear about your sister's promotion? Your brother just bought another house." And then they'd glance at me, like I had nothing to add. Over time, I realized they weren't just proud of my siblings. They were ashamed of me. It didn't stop with my dad. I heard the jokes, quiet ones behind my back. My sister once referred to me as the artist of the family, with that fake smile that meant she didn't really believe it. My brother told a story at dinner once, mocking someone who lived off Wi-Fi in coffee shops, and I knew it was about me. Everyone laughed. So when my dad stood at the reunion and called me the loser, it wasn't just a sudden insult. It was years in the making. It was every ignored achievement, every backhanded compliment, every time I was told to get serious. That night didn't hurt because it was new. It hurt because it confirmed everything I already knew. They had never truly believed in me, but what they didn't know was that I had stopped needing their approval. That moment didn't break me. It woke me up. They called me the loser. I decided to show them who I really was. After the reunion, I completely fell apart. I stayed in my apartment for days, ignoring calls, skipping meals, and replaying my dad's words in my head. I'm proud of all my children, except the loser. I felt humiliated, angry, and alone. It wasn't just the public embarrassment. It was years of trying to be seen, only to be shut down in front of everyone. I had spent so long hoping that one day my family would respect me, that maybe one day I'd finally make them proud. But that day never came. I hit rock bottom. I started doubting everything, my work, my choices, even my worth. I stopped freelancing for a while. My motivation disappeared. Every message from a client felt heavy. I couldn't focus. I couldn't stop thinking about how my own family saw me as a joke. Then, something unexpected happened. While mindlessly scrolling through social media, I stumbled across something odd. A photo of my successful, perfect little brother in a meeting room, except the logo behind him wasn't his company. Curious, I dug a little deeper, and that's when I found out the truth. His business? It had gone bankrupt 3 months ago. He had quietly closed it, erased the website, and started working under someone else, pretending like nothing happened. He was keeping up the image for our family, lying about being a successful CEO. That discovery lit something inside me. I started looking into my other siblings too. My sister, the doctor with the perfect marriage, she was cheating on her husband. I found private messages, secret accounts, and hidden meetups. And my oldest brother, the lawyer, he was being quietly investigated for financial misconduct. I dug a little further and found signs of money laundering. It was all there, buried, but real. That's when everything changed. I realized that I wasn't the failure. I wasn't the embarrassment. I had lived honestly. I built something real from the ground up. I hadn't lied to anyone. I hadn't cheated. I hadn't faked my life to look impressive. If I was the loser, then maybe losers were the only ones left with integrity. That thought gave me clarity. And then it gave me something else. Fuel. I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. If they could tear me down in public, then I could return the favor. Not out of spite, but because the truth mattered. It was time to make them face it. Once I realized the truth about my siblings, something inside me shifted. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. I had spent years being the quiet one, the loser who never fought back. But now I had a mission. I didn't want to scream or beg for respect. I wanted them to feel what I had felt. The shame, the doubt, the fear of not being good enough. Only I wasn't going to do it loudly. I was going to do it carefully, silently, and with precision. I started small. I created fake social media profiles. Each one had a different purpose. One looked like a local journalist, another like an anonymous whistleblower, and a couple were just average people poking around. I made burner email accounts to send tips, ask questions, and leave little digital breadcrumbs. Every message I sent was backed by evidence. I wasn't making anything up. I didn't need to. The truth was already ugly enough. For my youngest brother, the one faking his success after his company collapsed, I leaked documents from public records, quietly and anonymously, to a few business blogs and forums, screenshots of his now deleted company website, news of unpaid debts, and a list of closed investor accounts. I didn't even have to say much. The internet did the rest. Suddenly, he wasn't a genius entrepreneur. He was a fraud. Then came my sister. I sent screenshots of her messages, hotel check-in, and secret accounts to her husband from an untraceable email. No threats, no notes, just the fact. He confronted her, of course. I watched from the sidelines as her perfect marriage began to crack. The whispers started. The social media photos stopped. And my oldest brother. I passed along what I found to someone inside his law firm. An anonymous tip about irregularities in his client accounts and offshore movements. Nothing too direct, just enough to raise eyebrows, enough to start an internal review. I moved like a ghost. No one suspected me because they still thought I was too weak, too irrelevant to matter. That was my advantage. While they were busy playing perfect, I was slowly pulling the threads. They didn't know the walls were closing in, yet. This wasn't just revenge. It was justice. For every ignored message, every joke made behind my back, every moment I was treated like I didn't matter, I was finally flipping the script. The cracks were starting to show, and it was only the beginning. It didn't take long before things started falling apart. My youngest brother, the so-called tech genius, was the first to feel the pressure. Rumors started spreading in his industry circles. Investors began pulling out of his new project, and former employees came forward online with stories of unpaid wages and broken promises. A popular startup blog ran a story questioning his business ethics. He tried to play it off as jealousy, but the damage was done. The mask he wore for so long had finally cracked. Then came my sister. Her husband filed for divorce, just weeks after receiving those anonymous emails. Their friends were shocked. The woman who used to post perfectly filtered family photos was now deleting them one by one. She tried to hide it, to stay composed in public, but people talk. Her social circle turned cold. The looks changed. The whispers started. Suddenly, she wasn't the image of perfection anymore. She was just another person with secrets exposed. My oldest brother, the proud lawyer, was next. Internal investigations at his firm got more serious. He was pulled from a major case. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that he'd been asked to take a leave of absence while compliance reviewed his records. He acted confused in front of the family, blamed it on jealous co-workers and office politics. But I knew better. He was spiraling, and I had lit the first match. Through it all, I stayed quiet. I didn't brag. I didn't raise suspicion. I kept playing the role of the invisible one, the outsider, the disappointment, the one no one took seriously. I listened during family calls as my dad tried to understand what was happening. He couldn't believe it, his golden children falling apart one by one. "Something's not right," he said once. "It's like this family is cursed." I almost laughed. He kept asking questions, looking for someone to blame, trying to find a reason why his perfect little empire was crumbling. But he never looked in my direction. I was still the loser, still beneath his concern, and that worked perfectly for me. Behind the silence, I was the one pulling the strings. I was the one who had finally stopped begging for love and started building consequences. Every fake smile they gave me, every time they made me feel small, I was returning it, piece by piece. Their golden facade was falling apart, and I was just getting started. My dad's milestone birthday was coming up, his 70th. The family was planning a big celebration, fancy venue, catered dinner, speeches, the works. At first, I thought I wouldn't be invited. After all, I was still the loser in their eyes, and the family tension was at an all-time high. But then, out of nowhere, I got a message from my sister. "Dad wants you there." Of course he did. Things were falling apart, and maybe this party was his last attempt to hold the image together. Or maybe guilt finally caught up with them. Either way, I accepted the invitation. But this time, I wasn't just coming to eat cake and clap politely. This time, I came prepared. They had planned a slideshow, photos and videos of our childhood, milestones and accomplishments. It was meant to be sweet and nostalgic. I offered to help with it. My sister seemed relieved and sent over all the old files. I smiled and said I'd take care of it. And I did, just not the way they expected. I carefully edited the slideshow. 90% of it was normal, family pictures, birthday parties, graduations. But here and there, I slipped in small bits of evidence. A blurry screenshot of a business article about my brother's failed company. A photo of my sister with a man who wasn't her husband, labeled only Chicago 2022. A scanned email subject line from a law firm's internal memo. Nothing obvious. Nothing anyone could accuse me of tampering with. Just enough to plant a seed. Enough to make people pause, wonder, whisper. The night of the party came. Everyone dressed up, smiling for the cameras, pretending everything was fine. My dad was glowing, soaking up the attention like always. Then it was time for the slideshow. As it played, I stood in the back, drink in hand, watching their faces. At first there were laughs, nostalgia. Then the tone shifted, confusion, awkward glances. A pause here, a whisper there. My sister's smile tightened. My brother looked over his shoulder. My dad frowned, clearly unsure if he saw what he thought he saw. But no one said a word. The slideshow ended. People clapped politely, but the air had changed. Something unspoken now hung over the room. I didn't gloat. I didn't explain. I just smiled and sat down. Let them wonder. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, calculated, and impossible to trace. The room was full of laughter and polite small talk. My dad's 70th birthday party was in full swing. Everyone had shown up. The cousins, the co-workers, the neighbours. People he hadn't seen in years came just to celebrate the man who always acted like the king of the family. Everyone was in their best clothes, toasting to his legacy and sharing stories that made him look like the perfect father. But I knew the truth, and I was ready to let everyone else see it too. The slideshow began after dinner. The lights dimmed, and soft music played. The screen showed pictures of our childhood, birthday parties, family vacations, graduations. People smiled. Some even wiped tears from their eyes. For a moment, it all looked like the happy family we always pretended to be. Then, the tone began to shift. A photo appeared of my brother at his old office. But behind him was the logo of a new company he wasn't supposed to be working for. Then came a blurry email header with words like investigation and fraud, barely visible. My sister's picture popped up next, smiling at dinner with a man no one recognized. Labeled quietly, Chicago, 2022. The room went silent. Then came a document scan, partial bank statements, names, transactions, dates, all just long enough to be seen, but short enough to be dismissed as a mistake. Whispers spread like wildfire. My siblings' faces changed. Confusion turned into panic. My brother shifted in his seat, trying to act unfazed. My sister glanced around, her hand shaking slightly as she reached for her wine. My dad leaned forward, his smile gone, eyes squinting at the screen. "What is this?" he asked loudly. No one answered. He stood up. "Turn it off." The slideshow ended abruptly. The lights came back on. A heavy silence filled the room. Everyone looked around, unsure of what they'd just seen, if they'd imagined it, or if something very real had just slipped through the cracks. That's when I stood. I raised my glass and said clearly, "I'm proud of all the liars in this room, except me." Every head turned, eyes locked on me. My dad's face went red. My siblings looked like they were holding their breath. I smiled, calm and quiet. For years, I was the one who was dismissed, mocked, left in the shadows. Tonight, I stepped into the light and let the truth speak for itself. After the party, the energy shifted completely. The music died down. People started leaving early, whispering on their way out. The slideshow had done its job. Questions hung heavy in the air, and I could feel the tension thick as fog. I stayed quiet, polite and calm, sipping the last of my drink as if nothing had happened. But I knew what was coming, and I didn't have to wait long. Just as I stepped outside to leave, I heard his voice behind me, sharp and angry. What the hell was that? I turned to find my dad storming toward me, his face red, jaw tight. For a second, I thought he might actually hit me. He looked like he didn't recognize me, like I'd become a stranger overnight. "You think this is funny? You ruined my birthday. You humiliated this family." His voice echoed in the night air, but I didn't flinch. I just looked at him and said, "No, I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped hiding the truth." He stepped closer, pointing a finger in my face. "You've always been bitter, jealous. This was your way of getting back at your siblings because you couldn't keep up." I let him finish. I didn't interrupt, didn't argue. And when he was done, I said quietly, "You never saw me. Not once. I wasn't jealous. I was surviving. While they were lying, cheating, and putting on a show, I was building something real. I've worked for everything I have, without shortcuts, without anyone's help. And all I ever wanted was for you to be proud of me." He didn't speak. His eyes narrowed, like he was trying to figure out if I was still the same loser he wrote off years ago. "I stayed quiet for a long time," I continued. "I let you treat me like I didn't matter. I let them mock me behind my back. But I've done more with honesty and hard work than they ever did with your approval." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "I didn't scream at you in front of everyone like you did to me. I didn't lie or spread rumors. I just showed people the truth. If that ruined your perfect image, maybe it was never real to begin with." Then I turned and walked away. No drama, no final blow, just silence. Behind me, my father stood there, speechless, powerless, finally forced to see me not as a disappointment, but as a man who didn't need his approval anymore. And honestly, that was enough. Weeks passed after the birthday party, and the silence was louder than anything I had ever heard from my family. No one called, no one texted. There were no angry messages, no attempts to apologize or explain. The family group chat went dead. It was like I had disappeared, but not in a bad way. This time it felt right. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to chase their approval. I didn't wake up dreading what they'd say about me. or if I'd get left out of the next gathering. That pressure, the weight of constantly trying to prove I was enough, was gone. And in that silence, I found something I never expected: peace. My tech business, the one they used to joke about, started picking up. A few months earlier, I'd launched a small app, and word of mouth started bringing in clients. I had my own team now, remote workers who respected my ideas and skills. People believed in me, not because I wore a suit or had a fancy degree, but because I delivered results. It felt good to finally see things growing, not just financially, but in purpose and confidence. I also made a big move. I packed my bags and left my old city behind. I'd lived there for years, always close enough for family events, always trying to stay connected just in case someone changed their mind and decided to include me. But now, I wanted a fresh start. I moved to a quieter city, got a place with big windows and natural light, and focused on building a life that felt like mine. Some nights I'd sit on the balcony, drink in hand, and think about everything that happened. I didn't feel guilty. I hadn't lied. I hadn't destroyed them. They did that themselves. I just stopped protecting their secrets, and I didn't miss their approval anymore. What I thought I needed so badly, I was better without it. Oddly, the silence became its own form of respect. No one reached out to scold me. No one tried to shame me. They knew, deep down, they knew I had every right to do what I did. And maybe, just maybe, they realized they had failed me, not the other way around. I didn't need a sorry. I didn't want revenge anymore. What I had now was something better: freedom, peace, and the quiet satisfaction of finally living for myself. A few months after the birthday party, after all the silence and distance, my phone buzzed with a single message. It was from my youngest niece, only 12 years old. "Uncle, I saw the video. You're my favorite." Just 7 words. But they hit harder than anything my father ever said. She didn't ask for details. She didn't judge. She just saw the truth, saw who I really was, and made her own decision. In that moment, I knew I had broken the cycle. The pattern of pretending, of hiding behind fake smiles and forced perfection, ended with me. I never meant to hurt anyone. I didn't want destruction. I wanted honesty. For years I stayed quiet while they praised lies and ignored real effort. But now, at least one person in the family saw it differently. And maybe that meant the next generation wouldn't grow up thinking success only looked like titles and trophies. I didn't reply right away. I just sat there, smiling quietly, rereading the message. This story didn't end with a fight. No dramatic fallout, no courtroom drama, just truth, silence, and then understanding. They called me the loser. For years, I believed it. But now, with peace in my life, a growing business, and a quiet kind of pride, I know better. I'm not the loser anymore. I'm the only one who truly won. Do you think he did the right thing by exposing the truth and walking away from his family? Or should he have stayed quiet and given them another chance? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you would have done. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video.